I'm Amy, as he said. I graduated with a bachelor's in communication and creative writing, as well as a master's in themed environments integration at University of Florida. Sorry? Okay, there we go. Where I completed this research. And I currently work at PMAR Productions as an associate producer. At the University of Florida Themed Environments Research Sequence, we seek to add new knowledge to how we tell stories, never really knowing if our contribution will be large or small, but it's a privilege to share that knowledge with you and why I'm happy to be here today. I'm talking about nostalgia and how it can't be forgotten, reviewing the use of nostalgia in theme parks to develop a theory that will refine the balance between the ailing emotion and a hopeful outlook. So to help in understanding, you will see many images from my personal collection, my nostalgia. Before I introduce my research, I wanted to share a story. Imagine a young girl goes to a theme park and rides a dark ride that leaves an impression she will never forget. As the girl grows up, she remembers the impact this ride has had on her life and the transformative power stories can have. As a parent now, she decides to take her child and share in the special moment she had as a kid. They come upon the ride and are greeted with a construction wall. Any remnants of the ride are gone, nothing left to share. This specific scenario is fiction, but according to many published public opinions, the scenario is playing out for people all over theme parks today. As themed environments are focusing on innovation, nostalgia of the theme parks and their attractions seems to be disappearing and is being forgotten or removed in new designs. Are nostalgia and innovation compatible? In what terms are theme park designers evaluating their use of nostalgia? Can looking back be the way to move forward? Nostalgia is impactful. According to Bauman, it seems as if in recent years we may have witnessed nothing less than a revival of nostalgia. In many quarters of the academic world, with numerous new books published on the topic and an increasing number of journal articles. I have found evidence that nostalgia produces a positive outcome in marketing, enhances the story by having a greater understanding of its definition, and it would make a strong contribution to the field for the research. The first thing I attempted to do was define nostalgia in the current literature. Nostalgia's past meaning referred to a longing to return to a home one left behind. Etymology tells us that nostalgia used to mean when one left behind one's home, then longed to return to it. More commonly, nostalgia came increasingly to be understood as having a temporal dimension. For the Romantics, it was the longing for the pre-modern past that the rampant industrialization was rapidly obliterating, a longing that the rise of individualism quickly transferred onto one's personal past. After a thorough search of relevant literature regarding this topic, 4 themes became apparent: nostalgia definition and balance, story and immersion, public opinion, and nostalgia as commodity. Harries discusses when nostalgia is a longing for a home you want to return to, usually that return when actualized is disappointing. The idealization built up in one's head is better than anything that home can deliver. Nostalgia takes on 2 forms, past and future. One seeks to return home, the other is content to leave home a dream that projects its promise into the future. Main Street invokes a very strong sense of nostalgia about the better times in America, but it is also designed to resonate with and represent all Americans. It does this by representing a part of most American towns and heightening an ordinary element that most Americans keep close to their heart. It also leads the guests to the Disney castle. As guests make this transition from the Main Street nostalgic view, the story forces them to take the optimistic view of nostalgia, leaving behind the nostalgic feelings they once had for the possibility of a magical future. Replacing the Great Movie Ride was the biggest mistake in Disney World's history, this author believes. Walking down Hollywood Boulevard with its Art Deco facades and early 20th century references still brought back an acute sense of nostalgia for Hollywood's golden age. The Great Movie Ride, the author points out, was the glue that held it all together and made the park make sense. In previous decades, parks often added new flat rides more often than roller coasters. But after years of nonstop promoting new attractions as the world's first, the ability to promote more simple, nostalgia-inducing flat rides to the public seems to have been lost on most theme park marketing departments. After collecting the literature, different types of nostalgia could be identified. There's historical, having a fondness or longing for a time before someone was born. Personal, experiencing memories from one's personal past that they directly experienced. Collective, based on certain cultures and groups. Political, based nostalgia and politics. Narrative, representing stories that someone has a fondness or strong memory of. Reflective, looks to the past to rebuild it a dwelling on and longing for a past that never truly was. We had this and we lost it. Museums tend to be reflective, so it's not always a bad thing. Then you have restorative, looks to the past to rebuild it and make it better. Relive the special moments. Not just saying we love the good old days, but trying to bring those good old days and give the chance for anybody to relive that moment. Bring the good old days to the present. To me, Main Street is the perfect example of restorative nostalgia because it gives the chance for anybody to relive that moment in the past and become a part of that past story, much like the show Bridgerton as well, that was mentioned earlier. So my methodology, this is the breakdown of the story you're about to see. This research was a multi-method approach that involved a sequential phased research process and a multidisciplinary viewpoint. While data was gathered through the literature review and upcoming visual research, it was analyzed and developed into a grounded theory that was then applied into a program. Before going into the visual research, I needed to establish a framework in which to view the research through. I used Dorsey's frame innovation, which is a new approach into problem solving. The frame is a proposal for how the solution will work. Working my way through Dorsey's model, the literature review allowed me to establish the problem mentioned at the beginning of keeping nostalgia in theme parks. I reviewed any paradoxes, common stakeholders, and the field this would involve. From this, two common themes emerged. The idea of guest ownership when theme park is referred to as a home, and the second theme was nostalgia being used as a restorative tool. These themes led into two different frames to view my research through. The problem can be approached as either guests needing to feel ownership and at home with their memories, or a problem of providing a transformative place with the ability to change people. The problems cannot be answered quite yet. This is a sampling of my visual research. I investigated and analyzed the lands and attractions within 3 different Walt Disney World theme parks. My frames in mind and researched how they currently use visual nostalgia in the parks. I identified the style, such as Art Deco and Hollywood Studios, time period of the 1920s, and assigned different types of nostalgia to various details I was able to identify. This is a visual chart representation of the types of nostalgia I identified. Shown on the left side of the chart, more colors for more times the type was used. I determined Epcot has less personal nostalgia, a larger portion of reflective nostalgia, and slightly more moments of nostalgia being removed. Hollywood Studios had a larger number of personal and restorative nostalgia. From here, I began developing my grounded theory through a process of accumulating and analyzing data. My research process I used is called coding. First step, open coding, involves determining the main theme of a sentence or section of text and assigning it a code word or phrase. I collaborated with an AI tool called Atlas TI in order to collect these code words and phrases. I coded almost 50 texts and my literature review assigning 74 codes. The next step was axial coding, involving creating patterns where I rearranged and organized the codes into categories and determined 15 specific categories. In order to test my outcome and validate my results, I performed a second round of axial coding. I followed the steps provided by Delve to get closer to my theory. Through this process of categorizing, I ended up with 19 categories for my 74 codes. The next step is selective coding, where I followed this chart provided by Delve that gave me 2 main categories of the axial coding. Wanting to validate my outcome again, I refined their categories by sorting them a new way in my own chart, and I resulted with the same 2 categories. To summarize these, the first category is feelings of fear or sadness leads to a desire to return to a better past, but that past is shrouded in deception and doubt. The second was drawing on personal memories and wanting to connect with others leads to a desire to rebuild the past and bring it forward, allowing for hope for a better future and peace and acceptance. From these categories, I developed 2 full theories. I won't read them in detail here. Instead, let's summarize. The different paths one can go down for nostalgia depends on what they focus on, focusing on sadness of the loss versus drawing on happy memories. It also seems nostalgia becomes more of a sickness or a pain when the past is viewed through the lens the past was better, versus just remembering of good times and wanting to recreate them. These theories then led to my main grounded theory. If theme parks want to avoid feelings of bitterness or sadness and even change those feelings to being hopeful for the future, then they need to avoid reflective nostalgia and instead ensure they are using restorative and personal nostalgia in their designs. With our theory identified, the framework from before can be completed. When the problem is guests needing to feel ownership and at home with their memories, the nostalgia should come from the guests and their memories, personal. And for the second problem of providing a transformative place with the ability to change people, the nostalgia in theme parks should focus on being restorative. We now have a theory. How then do themed environment designers apply this theory to their designs? I developed a program where the goal would be to entertain guests and transform their thinking. The objective would be to attract and retain guests. To start, designers should avoid reflective nostalgia. As defined earlier, reflective nostalgia is a dwelling on and longing for a past that never truly was. Designers want to ensure they don't glorify the past or create only a certain picture of the past. To prevent a longing for the past, designers should include enough of how it used to be. Designers will want to make sure they use personal nostalgia. As defined earlier, personal nostalgia is experiencing memories from one's personal past that they directly experienced. Make attractions personal to guests by researching their behaviors, provide an impactful place that allows families or groups to make memories, create interactive moments, and allow connection with people in the story, and allow enough of the attraction to remain for multiple generations. Designers will also want to make sure that they are also using restorative nostalgia. Defined earlier, restorative nostalgia looks to the past to rebuild it and make it better. Designers should physically rebuild the past, allow room to move on from the past with innovations and adaptations, make the past better, include details, not symbols, follow traditions, and embody emotions or themes of the past. I wanted to take this a step further and apply this program to some familiar examples. Remember the ride Jaws? This program can be used to reimagine defunct rides. I applied the program to this ride from Universal and filled in what the item would look like on the ride. Here's what a reboot might look like, keeping the program in mind. The new ride would include at least a boat and the shark, adding details and interactive elements along with an interactive skipper. Keep familiar elements like the shark attacking the guest, feeling scared and triumphant at the end. The shark must be physical but innovative. Create a personal connection by having a boat ride where families can sit together. Now, while this program focuses on nostalgia already in the theme parks and revising existing or defunct attractions, it could also be used when creating a brand new attraction, where you want to make sure the right nostalgia is being used. Let's take the story of the Secret Garden and turn it into a dark ride using the program. Here's a collage of what that might look like. For here, you would want to create a story full of mystery and details. Create a physical setting where guests can find secrets and an immersive environment that invokes an eerie feeling that comes from the beginning of the novel to a feeling of wonder. Add in characters, innovative ride vehicle, and impactful moments. Allow guests to discover something beautiful and create it to last. My research is really meant to kick off a more robust investigation, and I hope it piqued your interest.